So you might be wondering, what's in the box? In here is the most exotic piece of reloading equipment I've ever gotten my hands on. Inside is the Turban CNC Präzipress 120mm, which is made in Germany to exacting standards and has some really unique features that I will show you once I get this press unboxed. And the best analogy I can think of to describe where this press sits in the ecosystem of reloading equipment is I used to be really into 1960s Mercedes cars. I had a 250, I had a 67 250 SE, the German model, the European spec model with the European headlights. And back in those days, the difference between something like a Chevrolet and a Mercedes was huge. I can recall reading a Mercedes pamphlet, a brochure, that talked about millions of inches in terms of bearing tolerances in the engine, and they had fuel injection, they had all sorts of stuff that really brought it to a different level. The Chevy gets the job done, the Mercedes brings it kind of to a different level with precision and with the experience of operating that machine. This press, I think, kind of represents that. This is the Mercedes of reloading presses in 1960s terms. Thomas Turban, the guy that makes this equipment, you know, he uses the latest equipment and he's got some really unique construction details as well. The guide rods have linear ball bearings that guide the shell holder up and down. I mean, this is something like I've never really seen before. And all I've done is to take out the owner's manual and to read about it because I wanted to educate myself a little bit about this press. I have not had it out of the box. So without further ado, let's see what we've got. Took a while to get this press. Here's the owner's manual, Heavy Präzipress 120. There's 3 different models. The Präzipress, which is 105mm opening. This is the Präzipress 120 Heavy, which is 120, and then there's a Heavy Präzipress that is 140. So this one will go up to 338 Lapua, and the 140 will go up to 50 BMG. Okay, so we've got some Styrofoam packing here. This is awesome. I just gotta say, this is truly a unique experience. Oh, and there she is. Look at that. Wow. Okay. So we've got some packages here. All the way from Germany. Took a while to get this through customs. I think it took a month total for it to ship. So, wow. This truly is exotic, I must say. Okay. Looks like a spent primer tube there. It's just fascinating. Heavy Präzipress. Okay. So what have we got here? Move this a little bit so that you guys can see a little bit better. Looks like some heavy bolts. You know, I think I'm going to be able to use these potentially for the Ultramount that I plan to put this on. Okay, so those appear to be the bolts to mount this Präzipress to your bench. Okay, here's the spent primer canister, a little bottle, and then a bushing. So this goes to 1 1/4 12. And it's got the 7/8 by 14 bushing installed, it looks like. Okay. Aha. So we've got some tools here. 27 and 24mm. Cool. And a spanner wrench that appears to work on the bushing on the top. Yep. Very cool. Very cool. Oh, look at this, the handle. Wow, look at that thing. Honestly, look at how large diameter that is. And I like smooth knobs personally. I find that they have the least amount of chafing when you go to load. Okay, so I'm going to go through the process of assembling the press here, and I'm going to investigate the option. Looks like I've got three mounting bolts. Investigate the option of adapting an inline fabrication quick change top plate for this press, and I'll be right back in a couple minutes. Okay, so I've got the Präzipress mounted to the Inline Fabrication Ultramount, which is securely attached to the bench. And this press it's really amazing. Let me tell you, I've experimented around with it a little bit, and I'll show you guys some 6.5 Creedmoor sizing and then bullet seating, and we'll do some tests. But first, the process of mounting it to the Inline Fabrication Ultramount quick change generic top plate. So what I did first was I actually used my bandsaw to freehand cut off about 1 inch of the plate so that I could get the press in a little bit so there's less overhang. And then I carefully held the press over the plate and used a scribe to mark the location of the holes, and then proceeded over to the milling machine. I've got the Precision Matthews PM949 TV to drill the holes and then countersink 2 of them. So the way these plates work is typically you've got a countersunk bolt coming up kind of from the bottom of the plate, and it needs to be countersunk because it sandwiches, the plate sandwiches against the Ultramount itself. Okay, so I've got 3/8 16 here bolts that I'm using. They're a little bit smaller than the metric hardware that comes with the Präzipress, but plenty strong. And the Präzipress mounting hardware, it actually has countersunk screw bolts that go down through the top. So what I did was I fabricated a couple basically countersunk nuts. And that enables me to get my countersunk bolts up through the bottom. I countersunk these 2 here, and then the 3rd bolt just goes straight down and has a nut on the bottom because it had enough clearance on the bottom to do that. So with a little bit of custom mounting hardware there, I attached it to the plate, dropped it in, and overall it's pretty good. There's a little bit of flex in it. I'd like to work on getting that down a little bit. And in terms of assembling the press, what you want to do is take the spanner wrench and make sure that this bushing, the bushing that steps it down to 7/8 14 is tight. This spanner comes with the press. And then we use the combo wrench. There's a 24mm, 27mm, and we use the 24mm to tighten the nut after we get the handle pushed through the frame. This is an ambidextrous design, so you can operate it either right-handed or left-handed, and I am ambidextrous, but I usually use right, so I put it on that side. Tighten that down, put on the spent primer cup, and that's pretty much all there is to it. I also wiped down the entire press as the manual indicates to do, and then used some light oil, kind of like sewing machine oil, for the linear bearings here and for the ram. And that actually made a difference. You know, the way it was shipped, got all that sort of factory lube off of it and some lighter oil onto it, and it's really, really slick. I also did all the pivot points for the linkage. This is super heavy, and what I like about it is how fat the handle is. The handle is so fat that literally there's no flex in that part of the assembly. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do some sizing of 6.5 Creedmoor brass, and we're gonna check the shoulder bump consistency. This is once fired Starline large primer brass that I fired in my Ruger Precision rifle. And so we're gonna use Forster dies. I'm gonna use a full length sizer die. These Forster dies are top quality. I didn't want to skimp on with this press setup because we're going to be looking at some sort of precision measurements. So the step is we're going to take the appropriate shell holder. This is your standard 308 shell holder that you use for 6.5 Creedmoor. I'm going to snap that in. This ram on the top of it here, it has a nice sort of E-clip that goes around the sides, it looks like, and there's 2 kind of little nubs that are on the inside which snap the shell holder into place. Kind of a really nice arrangement. Okay, so we're going to take our full-length sizer die, FLS, just double checking there, raise the ram to the top of its stroke, and we'll just go ahead and screw this down until it contacts the shell holder. Okay, that should be good. I'm going to hand tighten our lock ring until we verify our setting, then we can tighten that set screw so that we can screw the die in and out and preserve that setting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and size a piece of brass, and this, let me tell you, this press has some amazing leverage. It is incredibly smooth. It's kind of unlike anything I've used before, to be honest. Okay, so I've got my Ellie Wilson 6.5 Creedmoor case gauge here. We're good on our sizing. And so I'm going to go ahead and go through these cases and size the rest of them. I thought we'd use a sample size of 10. Wow. I mean, this thing is just, it's massive. It just feels completely overbuilt, which I love. And the fact that it has these 3 guide rods plus the ram in the middle means the alignment is absolute. There's no such thing as misalignment on this press. Wow. Really, this is truly something special. Okay. I think this press is going to get a lot of miles on it. Okay. All right. Okay. There is our sizing. We're done with all 10. I'm going to wipe off the case lube and then let's take some measurements to see what the consistency looks like on our shoulder bump. Okay, so to test the consistency of our shoulder bump, we're going to use this headspace comparator kit from Hornady and 6-inch digital calipers. These are eye gauging. They have built-in Bluetooth, which is really nice. Okay, so we're going to take our first piece of sized brass. This is kind of the most critical part, actually, is the settle in. And so we're going to go ahead and hit the 0 button here and then confirm to see if we get back to that same 0. Okay. Sometimes you have to rotate the case a little bit to get it to settle in. Okay. Second piece, moving down there as we go. Okay. 0. That is dead on. Okay. And 0, dead on. 0, dead on. 0, dead on. This is some really, really good results. Okay, 0, dead on. Let that settle in. 0. 0. 0. And let's see what the last one says here. Let it settle in here. 0. Look at that. That is amazing. Okay, well, I've actually never seen results quite that good for all of our shoulder bump to be basically right on. That's amazing. Let's see what kind of results that we're going to get with bullet seating. So this is the Forster Ultra Micrometer in 6.5 Creedmoor, and the setup of this die is actually really simple. Basically, we're gonna get it turned down into the bushing until the die body, not the spring-loaded collar, but the body itself, contacts the shell holder, and then we're going to back it off a ways, and I'm going to align the graduated scale here towards myself, okay? And then we're going to back out the seating plug micrometer. And then, so here I have a dummy cartridge. These are just 120 grain AMAX bullets that I had laying around. Okay, we're going to put the dummy cartridge in, and we're just going to turn down the seating plug and micrometer dial here until we feel a contact. firmly. This is not a super exact measurement for this particular exercise because we're specifically seating some bullets so that we can test the bullet run out. Okay, so let's go ahead and seat some bullets. Oh, that's slick. Wow. Okay. It's a really generous opening. Wow, that just, I can't really explain the feeling of this. You really have to experience it yourself. It's like ultra smooth and ultra slick, but with some mass behind it. I think that's probably the best way that I can think to really describe this setup. All right, last one. All right, let's do some run-out tests. So this is a familiar tool that you've seen here. This is the Hornady bullet run-out tool. And the way it works is we insert a cartridge, and then we spin that cartridge, and the needle will move basically proportionate to the run-out. Okay, so let's say that our center is right there. We're at basically plus or minus 1/1000th for 2/2000ths total indicator readout on that one, which is actually really good. Okay. Wow. That one's even better. Okay, that's plus or minus a little bit less than a half, actually. Wow. That is amazing, actually. Okay. Okay, it's about plus or minus 1 on that one. Less than plus or minus 1 on that one. Wow, plus or minus a half. This is also literally, I think this is probably the best results that I've seen. Less than plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch. Just under plus or minus 1. Plus or minus 1 on that one. Okay. About half, plus or minus a half. Wow, plus or minus a half. This is absolutely amazing. Well, I'm convinced. With a shoulder bump that was not even varying a 1/2,000th of an inch over 10 resizings of the same brass fired in the same rifle, that is amazing. And what we saw for our bullet run out was somewhere between plus or minus a 1/2,000th of an inch to plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch, which is exceptional. Even with great dies and a regular reloading press, a single stage, you might be looking at plus or minus 2/1000ths of an inch. So we more than cut that in half. Amazing. This is obviously a precision-oriented piece of gear. The die axis and the shell holder axis are held in perfect alignment over the full stroke of the press, and that makes this probably the most precise reloading press I've ever used. I haven't taken measurements and gotten that good of results before, period. I will note that the Präzipress, it also comes with, this Heavy Präzipress comes with the bushing that is 1 1/4 12. Okay, so if you have 50 BMG dies, this press isn't quite tall enough for that, but those would screw right in. And then you can use something like a Hornady lock and load bushing conversion kit if you wanted to. I don't know if I would recommend that here because, you know, that system is good for quick die changes, and it's also good for correcting slight misalignments between, you know, the RAM and the die. But in this case, everything is locked in, perfectly collinear. I don't think I would want to possibly introduce any errors. So, two things. One is I got more Präzipress content coming up. I've got more precision reloading scenarios that I'll be looking at this year and incorporating it into more of those. Thomas Turban from Turban CNC in Germany, he also has other products, and I'm going to be evaluating those. If you guys want to see those, let me know. The smaller presses, he's got some other top secret stuff that he's told me about that I'd like to share with you at some point. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications. Another reason to do so is February 2019. This is the most insane project I've ever taken on. We're talking about 14 single stage reloading presses side by side. I'm going to be looking at RAM wobble. I'm going to be looking at sizing force. I'm going to be looking at features, construction, price point. We're going to line them all up and we're going to evaluate them all next to each other. So if you're in the market for a single stage reloading press, that's going to be a great resource. And of course, the Heavy Präzipress will be in that lineup kind of as the top shelf aspirational offering. And if you want to know more about the press, if you want to know about how you can buy one from Thomas, click on the first link in the video description. That's going to give you a link to the full blog post write up on this press, because there is really kind of a lot to talk about, and I'll throw out the specs for the other presses as well and link to those product pages. Also, in 2019, I'm giving away something every week in my weekly update. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications. And if you liked this video, if you liked this press, give it a thumbs up. Thumbs up, people. What do you think about this press? This is crazy. Drop a comment. Leave me your feedback. The price point is above what other presses are. That will be in the full video description as well, in case you're wondering, because I bet you want one of these things. So, again, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. And until next time, happy shooting and happy reloading.